Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Hang out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy's Ted.
And today we're going to delve into the Marvel universe once again, and we are going to D&Dized Blade.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So we had a request come in to D&Dized Blade, and I'm sorry, I forget where it came in. It wasn't in the email until I really know. That is actually the best way to request stuff or do GM 911s to us because we put them all nicely, neatly into a folder and save that stuff there. If we get it on social media, there's a chance I look at it on my phone, go, oh, that's a great idea, and then forget about it.
All right, so we have Blade, comic book character.
We do.
He's a movie, character in a movie. Been around for a long time.
He's actually one of the first successful rated R superhero movies. Sorry, Deadpool.
Yeah, he beat you to the punch on that one.
Not only that too, it was also, in my opinion, one of the early, if not the first, good superhero adaptations, to a movie.
And in my opinion, now some people argue with me, but I enjoyed the entire trilogy, and I thought it was great. Wesley Snipes was awesome. And rumors are now sprouting that Wesley Snipes is actually a gamer.
Right. Rumors that might have actually first occurred on a Nerdarchy live chat. So,
so
they're like, you guys are just making this stuff up, aren't you?
So,
maybe.
However that happens, we're gonna D&Dized Blade, and we're gonna break it down.
Yeah. So he's tough to D&Dize because he's human, but he's not. So I guess Blade's story is, I believe his mother was actually infected with vampirism while she was pregnant with Blade. So, but because of that, he actually has some of the traits and aspects of being a vampire.
But not all of.
But not all. He's a lot of their strengths without their weaknesses. And I mean, in the movie they call him Daywalker.
Correct.
Because he can go out in daylight. But he's dedicated his life to destroying vampires and basically being a monster hunter.
So, where do we start? Do we want to start with race? Do we want to start with background? Do we want to go to the classes?
Well, let's start with race, because that's where it begins for all of us, right? You have to be born to something.
Well, you want to say human, but because technically in the world that they all live, everybody's human, and something happened to him. Well,
he's slightly undead.
So if we wanted to say he's not human, what other options are there?
Well, without going to Unearthed Arcana, because there is the only other thing that I can possibly think of is there's the Magic the Gathering D&D crossover. I don't even remember which one, but they do introduce a vampire race.
Mm-hmm.
So without going to that, I would go to Volo's Guides to the Monsters.
All right.
Which I'll put a link down in the description below so you guys can pick up your copy. And I would go with Aasimar. And I'm thinking Fallen aasimar is the sub-race I would go with. Now, a lot of this matches up. Some of it's going to take a little bit of tweaking, I want to say.
Creativity, if you will.
Now, an Aasimar gets a +2 to charisma. Not a problem at all. Blade has a very strong presence to him. Wesley Snipes is very sexy. So, going with that incarnation, that completely works. For the charisma, he's got it going on. And then the subclass would get strength. Well, that's not a problem either because Blade is very strong.
Absolutely.
So dark vision works out great. Blade has enhanced senses.
The human doesn't have dark vision. Blade can see in the dark. This works.
Celestial resistance, even better. Resistance to necrotic energy makes a lot of sense. It's also resistance to radiant, but heck, you can, why not? They're basically, different sides of the same coin. So I think that works out nicely as well.
I would agree.
Now, here are a couple places where it gets a little funny because one of their things is healing hands, and it's they can heal someone for their level and hit points.
This is the one that I think is the hardest to actually place. I did not read the comic books. But I watched and loved the movies. So this could possibly be him just kicking in his regeneration if he's allowed to use it on himself.
Yeah, he only uses it on himself. Perfect, Ted. You fixed the problem. He has healing hands, and he only heals himself. Because clearly, if he's dead, he cannot go out slaying vampires. Perfect. You're a genius. And then Lightbearer is his other ability, which this is another weird one because he gets the light cantrip.
All right, so
And Blade is like always shrouded in darkness.
So I had to, really, twist some strings on this one. And in one of the movies, he pulls out a flashlight that's rigged to actually put out UV light to actually harm and burn the other vampires. So that's this.
It's a stretch, but yeah.
it's a fine stretch, but it works.
It's literally the only one. The only part, in my opinion, has to stretch a little bit, and it's a cantrip, so maybe even we could swap it out for a different one that might make a little more sense. Would be the other thing. Now, getting into the Fallen Aasimar ability at 3rd level, they get Necrotic Shroud. Actually, everything with this really does work. It's one, you do extra necrotic damage when you hit an opponent. That's within 10 feet of you. Think you also have a fear effect to frighten people. Blade's kind of scary, not a problem. It's Shroud of Darkness. Well, I could definitely see, like, as the vampire comes out at him, that happening. The only place where it gets a little weird is Skeletal Wings. That doesn't work so much, but we can hand wave those away and just clip them.
Right. Now, in the movies, we see him terrify vampires with a look. Maybe part of it is because of his reputation. Maybe part of it is because he's using his racial ability. Who knows? But I think it works.
I think so too. So all right. So we've nailed down his race. Now we need a class or classes. When we get into superhero characters, it gets a little nuts at times.
I say we do background. If you're talking about doing it in order, let's do it in order. He's kind of, had to be on the edges of society. If you look at like the first movie, so I'm gonna put it up for Urchin.
Okay. I thought you were going to go Criminal.
Criminal could definitely work as well. I mean, he's got a shady past, but I would put it up as Urchin.
Yeah, well, the only reason I was thinking Criminal is because, one, he does have a little bit of a shady past, but more so than that, he's always had to live on the fringes of society. So he probably has more connections in the underworld, which is going to help him find vampires and when freaky stuff's going on. I feel like those are the people that are going to actually know first. So he might be able to gain information from there. Urchin's also a good one. When your mom's a vampire, you can only hope to become an urchin.
Rather than a meal?
Yeah, pretty much. And then my other thought was possibly Soldier. Because he definitely has that soldier of fortune kind of feel to him. And he's very militant in the way he does things.
Yeah, I think all of those work. I think settling on Criminal works. Just for the contacts, as he's always looking to get silver and all the other black market stuff that he uses to hunt vampires.
Right. So more or less, just by occupation alone, he's a criminal anyway. He may not be committing. Well, he is committing crimes, but he's doing them for a higher purpose, to kill vampires, of course. So he's got to have some weapons that aren't necessarily legal to be in his possession. But what are you going to do?
Right. All right. So we've got Fallen Aasimar. We've got Criminal. What class or classes are we going to link to this badass of a hero?
So before we got started, you said 2. One of them was one I was definitely leaning towards anyway. But I also had 2 in mind as well.
Oh, geez.
So we'll see where we meet in the middle.
I'll start off then. You brought up that he rages out, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
He kind of loses control.
He loses control. That, in every way, shape, or form, says barbarian. So, voila, he's got barbarian levels. I won't hear anything other than that. Or I won't hear any argument to counter that. But he hunts a particular foe. He's specific to, I want to kill vampires. Well, the best way to do that is to be a ranger. So he's a ranger as well.
I also was going ranger as well, just because you would want favorite enemy undead. Xanathar's Guide's not out yet, but when it does come out, we're going to get a monster hunter archetype, which would probably be perfect. Without that, I would definitely go hunter.
Yes.
When that comes out, I think we'd probably change it to monster hunter for sure, just because of all the knowledge and that kind of stuff.
Yes, I would concur there. So what other class are you looking at?
I was kind of thinking Oath of Vengeance, Paladin, because that's in there as well.
So if you went Oath of Vengeance Paladin, the spell slots, yeah, a lot of times he would be smiting with them, but
Smite slots, you mean?
anything beyond could counter or could be countered to his regeneration effects. You could use them for cures. His lay on hands again could be used for his own regeneration abilities.
Yeah, and shaking off, negative effects and status effects, because that's the other thing that's really good about lay on hands. Instead of healing, you can get rid of status effects.
Correct.
So, are we going with 3 classes, or do we think the rage can actually him kind of like freaking out can be role played?
I mean, it could be role played. I mean,
Or
you
a
could
flaw?
you could yell and scream without actually going into a rage, but I'm hard pressed to actually get rid of those barbarian levels. It's gonna give him the extra damage, which is gonna be useful. As you said in the very beginning of the video, we tend to go above and beyond our typical levels because we're talking about superheroes, not average Joes. There's definitely a difference. So I would look at if we did like a minimum of 10 levels of paladin, at least 5 of each in ranger and barbarian.
I was kind of going to be happy with 4, 4, and 4 if we're going 3 classes, just because like he's not Thor or the Hulk or quite even a Captain America, but he is like towards the bottom tier of Spider-Man, which I don't like. Which Spider-Man is definitely above your street level heroes.
Yeah.
He's not like Daredevil, Punisher, and an Iron Fist. I think he might be a little bit above then, but comic books are wonky anyway. Like it depends who's writing them and what they need at the time. So,
all right, so I'm gonna say that if you want to go lower tier, not quite 20th level, then I would say maybe if you want to bump it up by 4s, I'll give him another 4 levels of paladin. Go 8, 4, 4.
8 levels of ranger.
8 levels of paladin or 8 levels of ranger, either or.
Okay.
Just to have that much more, because you're gonna want as many of those combat feats that he actually has.
Well, the other thing too is if you do by adding the barbarian levels, it means he doesn't really need to wear armor, and Blade doesn't wear much armor anyway. He does wear some, but it's more like tactical.
Yeah, I think it's there for show. I don't think he actually needs it.
No. All right, so let's do that. So we'll do 8 levels of ranger, 4 barbarian, and 4 paladin. I feel like he's more ranger than anything because his primary focus is to hunt down monsters and kill them dead.
All right.
I think that puts him at 16th level. That's a decent level for him. Again, you got a character who's going to have all high stats. I don't think Blade has a stat below 14. And if he does, I don't know which stat, and even if there's a 14, I don't know which stat that is. He's super durable. He's super strong. He's fast and agile. He's super intelligent. He's got keen senses. He's very aware.
And he's made a lot of like wise decisions. Even in the heat of battle, there's times that you'll see something happen and you're like, oh, that's totally a bad move for Blade. And something that he set up 2 rounds ago finally goes off, and it just shows that the expert timing and the preparedness, which is wisdom.
Right, and that's why I was kind of reluctant for Barbarian, is because I feel like even though he might flip out and kind of like quote unquote rage, I never feel like he's reckless. He's always seems still like tactical and I want to say it's almost like a controlled rage where he just becomes super focused.
There are times those moments where it's not, but I'm recalling bits and pieces of scenes where he just totally goes ape shit on a group of people or a group of vampires.
Or maybe it just seems that way.
Well,
but you guys can fight that one out down in the comments below. While you're at it, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.
You can hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.